Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Judy Shields here. I'm super excited to welcome a director, a writer, and producer named Thom Mills. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Judy. And thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us here at the Hollywood Times. So, where are you dialing in from?
I live in Redondo Beach, the beautiful
Okay.
South Bay, which is beautiful. I'm not at the beach. I'm about 3 miles from the beach, but close enough to go down for a nice walk every couple of days. Loving it.
Nice here in
Yeah.
sunny Southern California. So,
Yeah.
welcome. So,
Thank you.
folks, let's see. His most recent film was acquired by Freestyle Digital Media and is scheduled for release on October 21st, just around the corner. How exciting!
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. The film's actually called Luderdale,
Yeah.
and we kind of play it off of Lauderdale because at the time there were Quaaludes were a very popular aspect of Fort Lauderdale in 1980, so we kind of played off. Yeah, so we're getting ready for our launch week next week, and we'll see what the world thinks of the film, I guess.
Will you be having opening night somewhere, premiering at a certain theater or
Not right now. We had a screening about a year ago for an early cut of the film, and we had mostly cast and crew and a few invited guests. We did it at a nice theater in Playa Vista. So that was our screening. We didn't do a red carpet, but
got it?
it was our opportunity to show it on a big screen. And it went very well. And then we went back and did a lot more work on the film. But we're not going to do a red carpet yet. Hopefully, maybe we'll be in some film festivals in the near future, or the possibility of maybe screening it here in LA and in New York. We're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it does. We've been doing the Hollywood Times been covering a lot of the film festivals, and this one belongs in it. I thought it was already in one, but it belongs in one.
Yeah, yeah. The film festival market's been a real eye opener for me
It's
this year
important.
in submitting for it. I haven't quite figured it out yet, the right fit for this film, but we're
Yeah,
working on it.
exactly. I also understand that you are debuting your first film in your second act of your life, which is a story within a story. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, okay. If I think I know where you're going, but so I used to be an actor. I was for 20 plus 30 years, I guess.
Wow.
Always directed, always wanted to be on the other side of the camera. So even when I was doing film and television stuff a lot in the 90s, I was always kind of when I had a moment, I'd talk to the directors about, well, why did you put the camera there and why did you choose, that lens instead of that lens? And try to get a little more about the subtext they were trying to do. So I'd always question in the opportunities when they presented to do that to get some feedback from the directors. So while I was acting and making my living at that, as well as writing, I was always in school for
Yeah.
directing, hoping
Wow.
that someday I'd get to where I am today with this film.
Yeah. What was it like the first day on set?
Well, so little backstory. We made this movie, even though it's been 2.5 years of getting it ready. We shot the movie in 12 days,
What?
which is, yeah, kind of insane.
Whoa.
So yeah, our budget said this is as many days as you can afford to shoot with this many actors at this many locations.
Oh,
I
wow.
would have loved to have had 18 days, which is kind of the standard in the indie film world, just couldn't afford it. So
Oh,
we said, how are we going to get ready for this train when it happens? So
yeah.
prior to those 12 days, I brought my actors in and we rehearsed in a theater for 1 week straight, round the clock, so that when we hit the road on the first day of shooting, we were ready to go, no time wasted. Um, so it was so fast and so furious in a good way.
Yeah.
And the 12 hours that first day went so fast that it's kind of a blur, but it went really well. I think it went as smoothly as it could have gone, given that we were shooting 10 to 12 pages a day. You've seen the film, and this comes from the actors, not from me, being prepared. Most of the scenes, the actors had one or two takes because I mean, I would have loved to have explored scenes all day with them because they were amazing. But we knew we had 11 more pages to shoot and we'd already knocked off 2 hours. So it was crazy and frenetic and exciting. And I really didn't stop to think about it until we wrapped, about how much we got done in such a short period of time. So, yeah.
What was it like working with the actors you had? Were they did an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you. I think they did as well. I wanted to work, I'm sort of like a fan of like Orson Welles, and I say that in meaning his team that he worked with in every film. They were like a family. They could they could talk to each other in shortcuts, and I wanted that. And I come from a theater background. That's what I wanted from my cast. So I cast all over the country. I went to New York to find two of my leads. I found one or two in Florida where we were originally going to shoot, but we didn't. We ended up shooting here, and the rest I found here. And for me, it was about one talent. So I saw amazing actors, and some it was heartbreaking to have to say no to them because they were that good.
Yeah.
And two, about personality. Are you going to be somebody that I'm going to want to be around for a few weeks? And are you going to want to be around me for a few weeks? So it was about communicating with the people on just a human level and knowing that we'd get along. And whatever happened with the film, good, bad, or indifferent, we were going to make it a positive experience. So I had the right cast for that, and was just happy working with all of them. And there's several I'd love to work with again.
Oh, so what was it like, as using Fort Lauderdale as, your backdrop? What was that to you? Significant.
Well, yeah, the story, the inspiration for the story comes out of my own life. I mean, it's a fictional film, but about 10% of it is real.
Oh,
And I can tell you that if you want to hear it. But
I do.
after college, I went down to Florida around the early 80s, and before starting my real life, I
Yeah.
just wanted a little time to decompress from college, and I
Yeah.
went down to Fort Lauderdale. So that's where the story came from. And I knew that I had to set it in Fort Lauderdale, and I knew it had to be set in 1980,
Okay.
81, versus contemporary. So that was the inspiration, and that's why I wanted to make it about Fort Lauderdale at that time, which was a very different place than it is now. I don't know if you spend time there.
I've been there. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it looks like Miami now. It's
Yeah.
posh. It's got the Four Seasons. When I was there, it was really kind of a very simple, laid back town with like mom and pop hotels. And now I sound like an old man now, right? But it's the truth that I went there recently, and it's like I don't recognize this place anymore. So it was a whole different vibe. And it's a beautiful place now. It was a beautiful place then in a different way, but I wanted to capture it the way it was back then as best as I could.
Yeah. This is a pretty bold move, making your feature directorial debut while also writing the
Yeah.
screenplay. What gave you the confidence to tackle both roles simultaneously,
Well, yeah. That's a hard one, Judy, but I would say that like I've had this story in me for since the 80s. And
Wow.
I've been playing with the script for seriously for 10 years, but I've been writing it since the 80s. Do you want to hear the story of the backstory of
Yes.
the? Okay, all right. So as I said, about 10% of the movie is real, 90% is fictional.
Okay.
But after when I went to Fort Lauderdale in 1980, I was working in a t-shirt shop on the beach and just
Wow.
hanging out. And I would pass by. I lived about, well, kind of the distance I live from the beach now, about 3 miles from the beach. I used to ride my bicycle to work every day. But I always saw this closed hotel on the beach, right on the beach, a little mom and pop. I think it was a
Yeah.
15-room hotel,
Wow.
that was closed. It was shuttered. They had newspapers over the windows, and it was like, well, how can this beautiful place right on the beach not have? So I'd park my bike there every day, and I'd go across down the block to where I worked. And one day I looked in the window and I saw two guys in there. It was a little with newspapers, but you could kind of peek in. So I knocked on the door, no answer. Knocked on the door again. A guy came out, and he very brusquely said to me, "What do you want?" And I said,
Mhm.
"I'm just curious. Are you guys open here?" No. I said, "Oh, okay, sorry." Before I could leave, another guy came up behind him, and he said, "What are you looking for?" And he was nice,
Yeah.
warm, very nice. He was Nicky of the film. And I
Oh.
said, "Oh, I work down the street, and I live pretty far from the beach, but I'm looking for a place. Are you guys renting rooms?" And the big guy's just staring at me going like this.
Mm.
Nicky says, "We might be able to work something out." So I ended up living with these guys. I paid them weekly. I had a room right on the beach, overlooked the beach, very Spartan. The place was closed, and it had a bed and a bureau, and that was about it. And I lived in this hotel with these guys for several months. And they lived at one end of the hotel, I lived at the other.
Wow.
We saw each other occasionally in the lobby, more often on the roof, because one of the guys never went out. Nikki never left the building in the 3.5 months I was with them. So
Wow.
now my mind's spinning here. The character of Tommy, who is a real person also, he always wore a sport coat. Now, this is Fort Lauderdale. It's not exactly a place where a guy who was maybe 25, he was an older guy to me, but he was probably only 25,
Oh,
always wore a sport coat. So my mind was thinking, what's under the sport coat?
yeah.
Um, so I lived with these guys. They never told me anything. They just told me that they no longer were back home, and back home was New York.
Oh,
And I never pressed it because I didn't want to know. And secondly, I had a great place on the beach for $70 a week or whatever I was giving them, and I was happy. I came home one day after about 3.5 months. They were gone, gone, never to be seen again or heard from again. I
oh,
stayed in the hotel another week or two. One day a lady came in with a set of keys and said, "What are you doing in my building?" And I said, "Well, I was living here with Tommy and Nikki, and they rented." She didn't know Tommy or Nikki. So she knew nothing other than I was living in her building. So she gave me a week or so to leave, which I did. And that was it. So for all these years, I started thinking that was real, that part. I started
wow.
thinking, well, who might these guys have been and why maybe were they running? Were they running? And that was the genesis of the story, which is you've seen the fictional version of that story.
I know. I was going to ask you about the characters because they're
Yeah.
just, like I said, great actors, female, male. Because I watched it, like I told you, I watched it twice because I was watching it and I'm like, what happened? Did I fall asleep? I mean, no way. What just happened? What
Yeah.
he was over here. Now he's so I love the storyline, how it went and it gets you
Okay.
and then it goes back because I always like going back to see what.
Right.
Oh, because you see him leave the building after he saw what he saw. I can't give it away.
Yeah.
And then
Thank
I'm like,
you.
and then you go somewhere else and you're like, okay. And all of a sudden you go back to that. I'm like, oh, pay attention, girl. You had me. It's one of those kind
Thank
of
you.
movies.
That is music to my ears. Thank you, because that was well. I don't want to give up the movie either.
You
You know
know,
what we're talking about, but so yes, we do play with time a bit in the film,
yes.
and I wanted the audience to have to pay attention, and then when we get to that third act, when he returns,
Yeah.
oh, now you really know where you are. So I was just hoping that the audience liked the movie enough to stick with it to that point. So sounds like you
Oh, they're
did.
definitely going to be talking going out and probably trip over something because they're just like so into it. you know.
That's okay, as long as they don't hurt themselves.
Yeah, that's true. As we're talking, we don't pay attention, so it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, your characters are fascinating, and
Thank you.
I love how they were brought to life. From I'll have to say it, the lifeguard. It's like Baywatch. That one little part. The swimsuit. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I love it.
Candy. Well, Candy's
Yes,
she's
Candy.
an interesting character because Candy was based it's mostly guys in the film because that's who I
Yeah,
lived with, right?
yeah.
But Candy was somebody that I went back to Fort Lauderdale the following year for 3 months, and Candy was actually somebody that I met the following year. It was a
Oh,
fascinating young woman who I knew I had to somehow put in this movie, but she was
okay.
not connected to the real hotel. But the person of Candy was a real person.
Oh, I mean, this makes
Yeah.
the movie just more exciting.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
with two
Yeah.
characters. Oh, that's a great thing. Well, let's talk about the business side for a moment. Independent distribution is notoriously challenging. I've talked to other folks. What caught you off guard, positively or negatively about, your film, bringing it to
Uh,
audience?
and the business side,
Yeah.
well, yeah, like so I didn't really think too much about the business side the whole time we were creating the movie. I just knew that I had to make the best film I could, and
Yes.
hopefully buyers or distributors would be interested in it. When I began to research the business side of selling the movie,
Yeah.
that was an eye opener because there are a lot of distributors out there um, that will take on films. Many, and I want to say this fairly, but many of these companies you don't necessarily want to be with because they might not get the film to the right places. If they do, you might not ever benefit from it. So I didn't want to just be at a place where I had to accept any offer I could get. So it was a huge amount of research to do to winnow down the number of distributors that I would maybe want to be with. And I
Yeah.
had my list and I had my short list. And the company that was on my short list at the very top was ultimately the company that took the movie. So I'm very blessed in that way. Because I knew it would be shepherded the right way out into the world. It's kind of a quirky film and a different film. There's no superheroes in it, so I wanted somebody that loved indie film and would get behind the film. So I think the biggest thing was finding the right distributor. And then the number of places it can be shown now, right? In the old days, you made a movie, you had a film, you took it to theaters, you showed it,
Yeah.
and that was it. So now there's hundreds of different platforms where, from the big boys, Netflix and
Yeah.
Hulu, through a hundred, I didn't even heard of till I really got into this. So
Wow.
I'm amazed. I'm learning where this film's going to be in the next weeks, and the list is quite long. So learning, and I'm a research nut. So as soon as I see it's going to be on this platform, I have to start looking, who's the audience, what countries, what regions. So it's like the world, it's like the web, right?
Yeah.
We have access to everything now, so it's so much more to learn. That's kind of the challenge, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where did the title come from? It's different.
Yeah. Well, actually, there was a film called Lauderdale back in the 80s, and it was a
Oh,
typical, yeah, it was kind of like a Porky's, like teenagers at the beach
okay.
thing. Um, so I knew, like, at the time in 19, like, okay, there were, I break the decades down by like what the popular drug of the era was, like 90s. No, and I'm not saying I did this stuff. I'm just saying
No, no.
I was around, I'm aware.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so in the 80s, the drug du jour at the Fort Lauderdale beach were Quaaludes.
Oh,
And a little white pill, and that was the big deal back then. That was the pre-Miami cocaine years, but you went out and got a beer, and then somebody'd offer you a Quaalude. That was just the time. So I thought, what title can I take, which is the place, Lauderdale,
right.
and captures that era, Ludes, ta-da, Luderdale.
Wow. There
Yeah,
you go. I love hearing
yeah,
those stories, because
yeah,
there it is. There's the title.
yeah.
So great. So do you have a social media for the film or yourself?
Yes, I mean, it's if you look up Luderdale right now, and I would put quotes around it,
Yeah.
quotes Luderdale, quote, because if you put Luderdale in, it'll often take you to sites for Lauderdale.
Yeah.
But if you put the quote marks around it, you'll see all of the sites where the film is featured, and it's
Okay.
on many. So you
Great.
can see the trailer on many sites. You can see breakdowns of the characters, the script. But if people want to learn about the company that made the film, my company is called Trispect Films.
Okay.
I'd recommend they go to www.trispectfilms.com, Trispect films.com, and they can learn about the film there.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
put
so trispectfilms.com to learn about our company that made the movie. I self-produced it. And you can also go to, of course, our Facebook page or Instagram page. Again, Trispect Films on Facebook, and at Trispect Films on Instagram. So I'm not, I do enough social to like just stay relevant in the world.
yeah.
But my daughter, thank God I have an 18-year-old daughter. She's
Oh
like,
boy.
Dad, she's teaching me all the Instagram protocol, like that. No, don't do that. Do this. So
Very good.
we're
So
there.
being a director, is this something you want to finish doing more of now? This is
Yeah.
what you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of honestly lost interest in acting a long time ago. As soon as they had the opportunity to direct, this is not my first, it's my first film, feature film, but
Feature
I've
film.
directed a couple of short documentaries, some
Okay.
commercials.
Yeah.
So I'm never going back from directing. But like I said to my wife, listen, if this film does well, maybe I'll have the opportunity to do this again. And if it doesn't do well, well, I got to do it once. And that was kind of my dream. But of course, I'd love to be making a film every couple of years. I've got 5 scripts that I've written that I would like to do. And we'll see, right? But I'm
Yeah.
also a realist. I'm not paying for that. We paid for this one. I'm not paying for the next one. So
Well, I think it was worth your money. It's really a great film. It's
thank
really,
you, Judy.
I
Thank
really,
you.
really liked it. So when someone finished watching your film and they're walking out of the theater or
Yeah.
turning off their TV, what's one thing you hope is still rattling around in their head?
I would like them to say that was unique and different, and it held my interest. And I was surprised. Like I didn't know what was happening until the end. Um, that and also I think that like people ask me what kind of movie is it, right? It's a thriller drama, a thriller mystery, but it has some elements that we've seen before. Like we've seen, certainly have seen mob guys in movies, lots of movies, right? But
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen mob guys like this.
Yes.
And it's got a little bit of um, it's got a little bit of a love story, but in a different way. But it's definitely not a love movie. So I think it's got similar aspects to a lot of different genres, buddy films, um, early Scorsese films, gangster films,
Mhm.
and even coming of age stories like Hutch's story, who's the lead. It's kind of a coming of age story, but not in the typical sense of what we think of coming of age. So I just hope people say like that felt familiar, but it felt different.
You said it perfectly. Great answer.
Thank you.
So, besides putting this movie out and trying to get it out there, what
Yeah.
else is coming up for you? Got something else you're going to be working on?
Well, yeah,
The
I'm
script?
actually, yes, well, like I mentioned, I have like five scripts done, right?
Yeah.
And so if an opportunity presented itself to direct something that I wrote, then, let's revisit that question in a few
Yeah.
months. I might say, hey, Judy, guess what?
Woohoo.
But since I don't have a job tomorrow as a director, I'll get back to working the keyboard again. And I have
Okay.
two scripts that I want to work, and these are maybe three now. Um, One is I started years ago a movie about the Wright brothers, which is a big budget Hollywood movie, right?
Wow.
Put it aside, but I want to revisit that. That's
Cool.
that's number one. I have another movie which I have not started. That's not part of those five scripts I was telling you about, which is kind of a continuation of Hutch's story 10 years later.
Oh,
Um, a whole different, so that I have that in mind. And then recently, and I shouldn't even say this, but I have to just because it's the I had the good opportunity to meet Jane Goodall years ago, and
oh,
my wife actually worked for a company that Jane was involved with. So Jane was, one of those people you spend 5 minutes with her, you've known her your whole life.
oh.
Um, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, gee, I might want to think about the idea of writing a script about her. I don't know. I'm sure every studio in Hollywood is going to come up with a Jane Goodall project now, and they should.
Yeah, yes,
Um,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of the things that are bouncing around in my head, and probably start the Wright brothers film will be the one I'll be delving into next.
Cool. Well, we will definitely catch up with you then. That's for sure.
Man. Oh, listen, if we do that film, it's gonna have to be somebody, either in the Disney family or the Paramount family who's going to be backing it. But if you're a writer, you write, and that's where I direct now, but I've always been a writer, and if I'm not writing, I'm not sane, so I'll be writing.
Yeah, that sounds like a great movie. I would just love to get the script just to read it.
The Wright brothers were really interesting because they
Uh,
were the backstory on them is that they were brilliant, they were amazing. We know their achievements, but they were the humblest guys in the world. So they
oh,
never they never promoted themselves, right? So while they were achieving flight, there were several competitors who were government backed or independent who were big talkers
yeah.
who were kind of riding their coattails. The Wright brothers just were so humble they would never do interviews or talk about what they were achieving. They just felt it was kind of in bad taste. So, but they lived very interesting lives that people don't know about. So I'd like to tell some of those stories.
Nice. Sounds like something the History Channel should be getting from you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's for
There's
sure.
uh, there's a, there's a lot of conflict from outside sources of Wright brothers, but they were just such sweet guys that they just kept working on building their planes. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
congratulations on this film. I know it's going to
thank
go
you.
somewhere. So it's
I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. I at this point, like I'm at the place where kind of like, so it's the weekend before the film comes out, right? And I've been living this film for 3 years, and now I'm kind of resigned to the fact like whatever happens, it's going to happen. I hope people love it. I hope they see something in it that's worthy of 90 minutes of their lives, and they want to talk about it to other people.
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it on the big screen because watching it on, smaller thing is not the same. But so I'm
Yeah.
thought, okay, as soon as I come to the movie theaters, I said I want to go out and see it and take my older son who I know would like something like this, catches his.
Well, if we do a screening, of course, we'll let you know. And
Oh, that would be great.
I've seen it on the, I mean, I've seen the film, honestly. Uh, I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said 500 times. And
Yeah.
and I saw it on the big screen one time at that screening. And
Oh,
I was like, oh, okay, that's how you're supposed to see a movie. I remember that.
see? Oh,
So I hope we get the chance to show it on a big screen, either at a festival or
yes.
if we do a screening somewhere in LA.
Well, we'll keep in touch. We're going to put this interview up on our YouTube channel, the Hollywood Times official, and we'll
Awesome.
get you that link if you want to use it for your social media.
Definitely.
So we'll get this out probably later today so that we can share it with all of our viewers. And we appreciate you taking the time to be with us, Tom.
Judy, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so thankful that you enjoyed the film and you gave me an opportunity to come and talk about it. And keep up doing all the great work that you guys are doing. And I hope we get a chance to talk again.
Yeah, we will meet in person down the line.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.